Greetings, receptive, intuitive, defensive Cancer. My name is Eliane Nicole. I'm an astrologer and tarot card reader, and now I'm going to do the January 2021 forecast for the sign of Cancer. I'm going to start with a tarot reading in the first half of the video, and then in the second half of the video, I'm going to talk about broad strokes of the planetary transits for January 2021. And I want to wish you a happy new year and congratulate you on making it through 2020. What a year. And, very strong Cancer. You did it. Not an easy year. And 2021 is a better year. We are still going to be having to clean up some of the wreckage in the wake of 2020. But we are making progress. And as we enter the month of January, Cancer, it looks like you are releasing some burdens. And this can be, literally just like relaxing, taking time off, lessening your to-do list, but it can be even on a broader, larger energetic scale, like dropping baggage or dropping shame or dropping resentment or, dropping stuff from the past that you're carrying. It's just like lightening your load at the beginning of the year. And you are covered by the sun reversed, which this can be feeling a bit melancholy, And you are crossed by the Eight of Pentacles, which has to do with work. It looks like you, big theme of work around January for you. And the basis, the Queen of Cups reversed. So we see a woman who is, Cups has to do with the realm of feeling and emotion. It corresponds to the element of water. So the Queen of Cups is usually an emotional woman. When she's reversed, her feelings can be hurt. She can be feeling particularly raw or vulnerable. The Queen of Cups reversed can also be a woman who is falling out of love or else just having romantic relationship related issues. It can also be a creative woman who's feeling creatively blocked somehow. And the Queen of Cups can represent like a water sign woman, like Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. But in general, she is a big part of the energy around her. For Cancer women, obviously this is you. For Cancer men, this can be a woman who is around you, who is playing prominently into January. And what is leaving is the Wheel of Fortune reversed. So this has to do with an unexpected twist of events. What could come into being is the Lovers reversed. So this is about mid-month. It looks like a couple may not be seeing eye to eye on something, or else they might be thinking about breaking up or separating. What will come into being, the Ten of Cups reversed. So this is, this can be a family upset of some kind around mid-month. And fears or insecurities, the Chariot reversed. This has to do with, fears or insecurities about not being able to travel or else not being able to move forward, being stuck in place, around transportation, breaking down or not working properly, things like that. And others see you as being in a state of suspension. There's something that you're waiting for. Positive feelings, the Emperor reversed. So the Emperor is a male energy. It can be a father, a boss, a landlord, a president of the United States. It could be anything. Anyway, it looks like you have positive feelings. He's out of alignment somehow, and yet you have positive feelings. Out of alignment can mean anything from an abuse of power to not standing in their authority properly to, the Emperor reverse. It's a multitude of, ways that the archetype can express, but it's basically a male authority figure type person. And although he's out of alignment, you have very positive feelings about him towards the end of the month. And the outcome is the Five of Pentacles reversed. So it looks like at the end of January, Cancer is recovering from a financial or spiritual injury of some sort. And that's the tarot overview for Cancer. And now I'm going to talk about some of the planetary transits. At the beginning of the month, January 6th, Mars enters Taurus. This is a big energetic shift because Mars has been in Aries for the last 6 months of 2020. And when Mars enters Taurus, he's entering your house of friends and business associates and groups and organizations. That house is going to have some significant activity in the month of January for Cancer. Possibly some unexpected activity, possibly some volatile activity. Again, that's the house of friends, and it's also the house of business associates, groups, and organizations. January 8th, Mercury enters Aquarius. When Mercury enters Aquarius, for Cancer rising, he's entering your 8th house. The 8th house has to do, for those who are married, that has to do with your spouse's money. For those who aren't married, it can have to do with your parents' money or just other people's money in general. So we see things to do with loans, debts, investments, sometimes investors. It can have to do with settlements, alimony, also inheritances and wills are in this house. And so Mercury in Aquarius in that house looks like there will be a lot of communication around this area for you in the month of January. And Aquarius is usually very smart, very intellectual, has really good ideas, it's very conceptual. And so this is a good time for thinking and communications around those areas through January. In February, it gets tricky within the same area, but more on that later. January 8th, Venus enters Capricorn. When Venus enters Capricorn, is entering your house of marriage and relationships. It can also be a house of business partnerships. But Capricorn is, super practical and pragmatic and serious. And so, this is a time where that tone will be around those 7th house topics for you. Also, January 12th is the new moon of Capricorn, and the new moon of Capricorn will also be happening in your 7th house. And new moons are always incredibly rich and fertile cosmic soil to plant the seeds of intention that we want to manifest in our lives. And so this Capricorn new moon in your 7th house is a great time to write intentions around your marriage. If you aren't married, it could be what you want in marriage. It could also be around business partnerships and things like that. And then also, if you watched my December 2020 forecast, I talked about how while Mercury is in Capricorn, that's a great optimum time to write your business plan or set your budgets and your action plans for the new year. Well, hopefully you did that. And January 8th, of course, Mercury moved into Aquarius, but now January 12th, the new moon of Capricorn, is the time to do the magic around the, work we have already done. We did the writing and the thinking and the planning while Mercury was in Capricorn. Now we do the magic around our business plan and, do the new moon, set the intentions of what you want, have your altar, your candles, your flowers, the ancestors, photos of the ancestors, bring all the elements onto your altar and, do the magic to manifest. And January 14th, Uranus goes direct. Uranus is going direct in your house of friends, business associates, groups, organizations. So there could be a plot twist, there could be a shakeup, there could be unexpected news, there could be a sudden liberation, things like that when Uranus is active. January 15th, the Mercury pre-shadow period begins for Mercury retrograde. Mercury doesn't actually go retrograde until January 30th. So the retrograde period is really the first 3 weeks of January when it's really the first 3 weeks of February when it's really active. But I do want to tell you that if you are planning in January to have any important conversations, send any important emails, have a surgery, sign a contract, I would encourage you to do it in the first 2 weeks of January as opposed to the second 2 weeks of January. Because once Mercury goes retrograde at the end of January, it's really not until the end of February or really the first week of March until we're out of the woods in terms of communication breakdowns, technical difficulties, technology going haywire, just travel plans or scheduling things getting mixed up. And Mercury stuff, it's not necessarily tragic, although sometimes there can be accidents, but it's more like annoying and frustrating. And so if we can be aware of it and plan around it, we can save ourselves a lot of time and grief and frustration, and let's see, January 17th, Jupiter squares Uranus. This is a very exciting aspect. I talk about it in great detail in my 2021 full year overview video. If you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back and watch it. I did one video for all the signs, kind of doing a bird's eye view of the major aspects of 2021 that kind of define and characterize the year. And in that video, I outline where all of the Mercury retrograde periods land, and I also talk at length about how exciting this Jupiter square Uranus aspect is. And even though it's forming exact in January, it is setting off a theme that will umbrella the entire year. And it has to do with iconic cultural moments. It has to do with breaking records in sports and other areas. It has to do with, sudden breakthroughs into new horizons, sudden and unexpected breakthroughs. Jupiter, again, is the planet of grace and good fortune and expansion. And it's Aquarius. It's in the sign of progress and genius and thinking out of the box. And then you have Uranus, who's the disruptor and the rebel and the inventor and the shaker-upper. And so all of these energies are coming together. We can see big explosive changes and big explosive progress. And so it's exciting. There is a little bit of a volatile energy to it because sometimes big change happens in these unexpected ways that can just really rock our world, but it's exciting, And so that has to do with this aspect, and it forms exact in January, but it colors the entire year. And January 19th, Vesta goes retrograde. Oh, and by the way, Jupiter square Uranus for the Cancer rising native is going to be taking place between your 8th house of other people's money and your 11th house of friends and groups and organizations. So those two areas should be seeing some liberation and change and expansion for you. And then, let's see, January 19th, Vesta goes retrograde. And I started talking about Vesta and Virgo in my November 2020 forecast. So if you want to go back and review that, I talk a lot about Vesta and Virgo. But here I will say, as she goes retrograde, it's bringing attention to this area of our chart, which for you is the 3rd house of communication. And it's the house of siblings, and it's the house of your neighbors. And so Vesta is inviting you to explore what is sacred to you in that area of your life. What are you devoted to? Where is your devotion? And how is that being expressed? And asteroids aren't planets, so they don't necessarily manifest as strongly unless you have a strongly placed Vesta in your natal chart in which this aspect is going to be super meaningful and pronounced for you. That's why it's really important to know your own natal chart, because then when you watch these general kinds of videos, you know which things kind of apply to you more and which things are more, peripheral to you. January 19th, the sun enters Aquarius. The sun entering Aquarius is also entering your 8th house. So again, this 8th house, this is a big house for Cancer. You are actually kicking off a new 20-year era in the 8th house. And so, yes, the sun is really going to be highlighting it now, and Mercury is going to have you really talking about it and thinking about it, but Jupiter being there all year is creating a lot of expansion and growth for you in this area. It could even mean that you're receiving an inheritance or, something like that. Not necessarily. And then Saturn there is like going to be giving, form and structure to our Jupiterian visions and ideals for this area for the next 20 years of life. And then Saturn is sticking around for the next 2.5 years to really build the foundation. So this is really an area to watch for you, and I encourage you to read about the 8th house in books, not just on the internet. It's a really interesting, deep house, and it's a house that you're really going to be getting to know for the next 20 years of your life. So I would really get into proactively learning about it and engaging with it in a positive way. And January 26th, Neptune squares the nodes. Neptune squaring the nodes is forming exact on the 26th, but it's been building since October. And this is such a fascinating aspect to me because Neptunian energy is so elusive and it's so hard to grasp. It can be very, very subtle, even though it's creating really impactful, lasting changes. Neptune has to do with the unseen, and the nodes also have to do with the unseen. The nodes have to do with karmic turning points in our life. And so this aspect has this feeling of something that is brewing underneath the surface, or not so much underneath the surface. I guess that's more Plutonian. So with Neptune, I would say it's formulating in the ether, in the cosmos, and yet it may not be manifesting in a material form that we can see yet. But this for Cancer has to do with the 9th house of God, spirituality, higher truth, philosophy, higher education. It can be international travel or cross-cultural experiences sometimes. It can have to do with broadcast. It can have to do with broadcasting and publishing where applicable for people who are operating within those fields. And then it's bringing together the 12th house of hidden karma and the 6th house of health, your daily routine, your work in the world, how you approach your work in the world, where you're of service to others in the world. So something is operating in the unseen realm for you that's bringing those areas of your life together that maybe later is going to become much more apparent for you. And the eclipses probably gave you some foreshadowing or idea of what area, of how that's going to all unfold. Anyway, let me keep it moving. January 28th is the full moon of Leo, and for you, that's in your 2nd house of finances and resources, really illuminating that area. And again, this is forming an opposition to everything going on in your 8th house. So there's going to be some tension there, some illumination there. And this is the money axis for you, your money and resources versus other people's money and resources. Again, this can be your spouse, this can be your parents, it can be other people. And so that's going to be a big theme where there's illumination towards the end of the month for you. And then January 30th, Mercury goes retrograde. And so Mercury retrograde, again, that's going to affect more the first 3 weeks of February. You will have started to see some of it bubble up in the last 2 weeks of January. But this can bring communication breakdowns in these areas of your spouse's money, your parents' money, other people's money, whatever, debts, loans, alimonies, wills, inheritances. And also, this is the house of death and regeneration and rebirth and elimination. So the Mercury retrograde can be bringing up those things too for you. And so that is the planetary overview. If you like this video, give me a like. If you didn't like it, give me a don't like. Please subscribe. Please share this video with other Cancers. Please follow me on Instagram at astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole, where I will continue to fill in more details as these transits unfold. And thank you. Have a wonderful January, Cancer.